Hello, greetings. I'm very confused. Okay, I have schizophrenia and all this, right? It's like distance mind control symptoms. They don't stop. Well, here now for a little while they have. It comes on me. Voices and terrible things. Negativity sticking into me and all this. But if you like to follow a schizophrenic, up to you. It is your responsibility. I would like to show you how confused the Shias have also made me in this. Right? The Shia reasoning and all this. And then they tell me I'm being stubborn, and some Azad ground who wasn't even a Shia told me, you are doing your manmani, as if he's done a favor to me somewhere, helping me out or something. He's topifying, imposing his favor on me, or or lied, or imposed a favor on me because someone told him, listen, we need to help these ex-Muslims so they don't, at least they don't get, I can understand, don't get executed because they're apostates now. So these, some Shias would, I can turn back and tell them, but haven't you been stubborn and not even considering His Highness? अगर मुझे मुंह पे ऐसा जवाब देना होता ना, तो मैं कब का दे देती अपनी फ्रेंड को कि मुझे क्या stubborn बोल रही हो? What are you saying stubborn to me for? I'm trying to understand this verse that is not, my mind cannot digest. But when I told you about His Highness, no, that Imam we cannot consider at all to be a true Imam. रद्द कर दिया ना बिल्कुल, यानी और क्या, what is the reason? His forefathers were the son of Imam Jafar Sadiq, Ismail. Okay, you're going to tell me why am I getting angry. I'll talk about this if I have energy in the end. I'm just telling you that these Shias, 12er Shias with their reasoning, tell me that I'm being stubborn. Well, and in the end, I will be, Look at this. No, I'm wrong about Surah Nisa verse 2. And it's not about inheriting women sexual intercourse, rape. This verse is not on rape. I checked multilingual Quran. And another thing before I forget, there's a legal thing when you say rape is illegal here. And then to define rape, forcefully, against their will. So nowhere, but if it's not against their will, and if it's not forced, then what does it fall into? It falls into sexual intercourse willingly by the two. Unforced sexual intercourse willingly by the two partners who have indulged in sexual intercourse. Right? That's how, with the inheritance too, it should fall into women who are not forced into inheritance, being inherited and against their will. So if you take away forced and against their will, it should say that the woman herself wants to be owned by them in inheritance. So this inheritance thing is not about rape in Surah Nisa. Surah Nisa, Ayat 19, verse 19. It is again, they're emphasizing. You see, this is where most of us are stuck, I guess. Sunni did this is wrong. Sunni say Shia did this is wrong. We should get on with just emulating those. There are those ulamas and Shias who get on with that and stop blaming Sunnis or anything. Just stop it, and we do our own thing. We do our own thing. They do their own thing. They've got over this, got on with it. So now here, back to this quickly. Sorry, I have to be like this. Surah Nisa, 4th Surah, verse 19. O you who believe, it is not lawful for you. Oh, I'm on the... Okay, wait, here they will show you at least the Sunni. O you who...
يا أيها الذين آمنوا
believe.
لا يحل لكم أن ترثوا
You inherit the women by force,
النساء كرها
and not you constrain them so that you may take a part. This is about a pagan, what these despicable pagans practiced by inheriting women. So we go to multilingual Shias. Yeah, I have to go there. And just a minute, please. Okay, so here I am. Surah Nisa, Ayat 19. Shia Ali commentary. In pagan Arabia, widows were divided amongst the heirs of a deceased as goods and cattle. The heir either married the widow to someone else and kept her dower, or refused to let her marry unless he was paid a handsome amount as a settlement, or else married her himself. Another maneuvering was to harass the wives by imprisoning them in their houses in order that they might be forced to claim separation and thus to relinquish their dower or their inheritance, like my aunt had to do with a Shia husband. All such barbaric customs were swept aside by this verse. Really. Can I ask a Shia alim, where was he? He wasn't to be found in Oman or in Karachi, Pakistan, when my aunt needed him. He left my aunt with his and her daughter, and then she waited, and when he wouldn't send her divorce papers, at least send me the divorce papers, she had to ask for the divorce, and even then he was delaying. We didn't know if he was going to give her a divorce or not. And she didn't have that much money to take care of herself and her child. So she couldn't even have the temporary marriage with another man. So later on, she had to ask for a divorce. Then the man came, saw his daughter but went away, and then was handed a khula, which is like, then you don't get your dowry money back. This is practiced in Shia Islam too. As far as I know, it happened to my aunt. So here when they say this despicable, see the dower, to relinquish their dower, money, or their inheritance. All such barbaric customs were swept aside by this verse. I don't know, 12 years. My aunt had to, when the wife asks for a divorce, she has to relinquish her dowry. Okay? And now another thing is, personal thing I've given you, understanding the biological handicaps of women. So I read all this, nothing of being raped. Like if it said here, oh, you believe, it is not lawful for you. It is not lawful for you to forcibly, for you forcibly to inherit the women, in brackets, of your deceased kinsman. This was a pagan what they used to do to the widows, and when the deceased heirs, divided among the heirs of a deceased as goods and cattle and all this. So if the will is not against their will, inherit women against their will. So I thought, it would go back to something like, no, you can inherit us, keep us like this, as in pagan Arabia they used to. So how to put it properly here? Because you see, for rape, I gave you the definition. It is illegal. Rape is illegal. That's a law, forbidden. Then if you define rape, that's another thing. So here, for rape, you can say that the will of the person, it was against the will of the person. And if it is not against the will of the person, and she or he is not forced, then what does it doesn't, then it's not rape. Then it's not rape. It falls into some willingly allowing. It is not force, not forcibly into, let's say, sexual intercourse. Sorry, I have to use this word. So then it's not rape, right? So here, for rape, you can put like this, a definition, because then it's rape. And if that will is not there and it's forced, because you see, look at the rape. Sorry, last time I couldn't explain it properly, just very slow. Definition for rape. Then you say, but what if the will is involved? What if it was not forced? Right? Unlawful sexual activity and usually carried out, sexual intercourse carried out forcibly or under threat of injury against a person's will. You see? So what if the will, it's not against the person's will, there's no injury, no threat, nor is it carried out forcibly? Then it won't be rape, right? It will be legal sexual intercourse, willingly done by both parties, both partners. But here, in Surah Nur, Ayat 33 also, and in Surah Nisa, Ayat 19. But my concentration is here more. Do not, see, this is not about just prostitution. It's about forced prostitution. So I've been unable to cover everything right now. Like God has given punishment if you're that half punishment for those what your right hands possess, and they have to be chaste and all this. But what is the point that I was going to say? I've forgotten. Do not compel your mates to prostitution. This is forced prostitution. When God, then why doesn't, if they wish to observe chastity, and it is there in the, if they wish to observe chastity, then we say, what if they do not wish to observe chastity? And what if this is not forced prostitution? Then it is still prostitution. And then you can force them, or you can see. Then we say, this is not like rape, that it falls into two people willingly wanting to have, it will fall into that category. God has put it, see, this is not, do not, it is illegal. Prostitution is illegal. It's not like that. This is about forced prostitution. This is about prostitution under compulsion. This is not, and if their will is not involved because they want to remain chaste, honorable. Okay? They don't want to go into forced prostitution. So that would be, this is about forced prostitution. So where would it fall if we say it is not forced and the will of these maids are involved? Still into prostitution, but not into forced prostitution. So here it is wrong to put it this way. You've mentioned prostitution. There you said keep chaste, it is all right. But here it is a wrong way to put. You can put prostitute, if Allah had just put here prostitution, forget the forced one, just the normal prostitution, unforced. Prostitution is illegal, haram, forbidden. See, in Ayat, Surah, you can't convince me about Surah, why it doesn't apply? Because God has mentioned prostitution here, and if you want to define what is indecencies, then you define in every, like what is indecency, apparent and haram, like what is sin, haram, what is sin, then you define what is sin and what kinds of sins are there, you define them. So in various verses there are things defined or put in a very disorderly manner, like we have to search for it and we have to keep remembering it, we have to be hafiz of Quran, or now we've got it easy, we can search what types of sins are there, and we have to gather the Quran, gather the verses and all this, right? So since now we understand that God is aware, has mentioned prostitution, forced prostitution, why can't he just then, what is the point of him mentioning this here and not even giving the punishment for those who will be forcing them, because then them here into prostitution, not even mentioning the punishments, meting out punishments, because he's not mentioned rape, but he's mentioned prostitution. He's mentioned punishments he's mentioned fornication, adultery, zina, kinds of zina, like When you're single woman, single man, is fornication, zina. When I don't know what kind of zina that is. When you are a married woman and a married man, adultery, zina. I don't know what that is called. And zina jabr, he has not mentioned. I searched, Google search, maybe I missed something. The only verse was this one. Do not compel, this one. Surah Nur, and those who cannot afford marriage should keep themselves chaste until, and those of your slaves who wish to enter the country. So it's not a rape cases. There's one in Surah assault, sexual assault by a queen done to Hazrat Yusuf. And then an elderly man is called for that. 4 witnesses are not called. But in Pakistan, they have the zina thing for rape. Zina, punishment for zina, they want 4 witnesses, criteria for zina. And zina jabr is not like this is some of the verses are abrogated, the Sunni Muslims and all this. I don't know what's for the Shia Muslims. Like Imam Ali has said rape for that punishment, then the alims in Iraq, then our organizations, Shia Aqaf, will be meeting out. For example, in here, the Sunni Sheikh Emirates, they will ask the Shia ulama, religious scholars who know this Sharia, and they are judges, and they will sit and they will decide the case. So, and what punishment to mete out. But in the Quran, specifically for rape, there's a sexual assault, attempted rape on seduction and temptation. Seduction on, what would you call it? Seduction, assault on Hazrat Yusuf. And 4 witnesses were not needed. So I was saying in Pakistan, on Facebook, social media, why don't you apply that verse in Surah Yusuf for rape, where 4 witnesses are not needed? Is that verse now abrogated, that part where the queen Zulaykha, or so I always, Bilqis is Hazrat Suleiman's. Oh, Zulaykha, but her name is not mentioned, or okay, so this is not something to be touched, taken lightly. So I can't until I have to read it out. And I don't want to go to Surah Yusuf again. So I feel very wary to mention these things. But I have, so if I've made a mistake, okay, Zulaykha is mentioned or not, but the queen's wife. The king's wife, sorry, the queen. So I may be making these small mistakes which will probably get you out of here. Like you wouldn't want to listen to me. But in all these small mistakes, like no Angrez, even no American, not even Dr. David Wood said that verse, something is wrong with that verse. Compulsion. So I'm the only one seeing it, as far as I know. I haven't heard Dr. David Wood, apostate prophet even, or who else is there? Abdullah Samir. I haven't heard anyone, Rob Christian, even the Christian, say anything is wrong with that verse in Surah Nur, Ayat 33. As far as I know. Maybe in some other videos, I don't know. But mostly I'm the one stuck on this verse. So you may call me stubborn and apni manmani kar rahi hai. She's doing her, she wants to impose her will on us. Right? So rape verse, sexual assault is there. There's an example. You can go to Surah Yusuf and read about it, where 4 witnesses were not brought, but an elderly man, wise man, elderly or wise man, who knew about these things and could tell. Here, and do not compel your handmaids to prostitution in case they are willing to be chaste, literally to be in wedlock, that you may inequitably seek the advantages of the present life. This is Dr. Ghali's translation. In case they are willing to be chaste. What if in case they are, this is not rape. So if you just put the will out, if we ask like this, like what if they are willing? Because Satan is, God should know how Satan comes in the mind. And what if we question it like this, which I did? Why did I question it like this? Because you see, in rape cases, you say, what if the will is involved? And what if it is not forced? Then you will explain to me that, Zahra, then it will fall into another category. Where two people agree upon sleeping, having sexual intercourse, the consent is there, they are not forced. And they don't hurt each other. In between also, if, and there was also nothing about marital rape until recently in Islam. So, do you see this? If now I take this verse, do not compel, do not force, do not compel your handmaids to prostitution. But what if there is no force? In case they are willing to be chaste. But in case they are not willing to be chaste, then in what category will it fall into? Marriage? No. There would still be this prostitution. Do you get it? See, I searched the Google search engine. Is prostitution banned in Islam? It said what? Prostitution is banned in Islam. Now show me a verse. They will go here and there. So what? What did it say? But in the Quran you will not find prostitution is banned, illegal, haram. Yes, I know in Surah Araf, verse 33, it says that indecencies apparent or hidden. See, if it had just, what does God mean by this? In order to, does God want to tell us that in pagan Arabia, this despicable again, pagan Arabs? Does it want to make a point? See, you can put this that rape is defined as forceful by what one partner, one person, or not even a partner, like about marriage, or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or anyone, but forceful. Oh, God, why am I? Very easy. One man forcing it on another man, woman, just for the sake of being simple, without their will. So if their will is involved, you will ask, what if their will was involved? What if it was not forced? Then it cannot be rape. So you must define what are the indecencies. Because if you're telling us here This is about forced prostitution. You've jumped to forced prostitution here, and God knows from where. I mean, we know from here, like keep chaste and all this. Then why don't you just say that prostitution is haram? No, you cannot take me to Surah Araf verse. Because here God has specifically mentioned forceful prostitution of handmaids. And you must question this here, like I did. Or, okay, you may think, मैं अपनी मनमानी कर रही हूँ. I'm following my own whims and trying to control you, your mind, trying to get you against Islam. I assure you, it would be very easy to become a Shia. And in madness, we are forgiven. There would be no punishment on me. My Shias, the ulamas, should understand, even if my father doesn't understand that I cannot pray. The Shia ulamas, very good ones, high caliber, would say that no, if you can't, like I explained to someone, say, okay, you can say this ayat, this ayat from the standing, sitting, whatever you're doing. I said, even smoking. He said, yes, smoking, even you can keep repeating this ayat for your protection. Because it's for your protection, you have to repeat it. If you have to repeat it whenever, to even like stop smoking, if you're smoking and you want to protect yourself, you can keep repeating this. So a Shia alim will understand. These ordinary Shias may not, like my father and someone else. You understand? So for me, it's easy to say, well, I was not feeling well, I was confused, I was out trying to find the truth and I wanted to see. Then I got stuck in the Sunni Shia thing, which I had to be sure, I had to read instead of, just looking after the miracles and dreams that I personally had. Because some Sunnis will not take my dreams, and then I had to protect the Shias, so I had to teach understanding Shia Islam. It's very easy for me. I don't have to get executed here in Dubai. At least in Dubai, I know what it is for the Shias. We have our freedom. We have Imam Barga. We can practice inside the Imam Barga. We can do our thing. We can practice our Shia religion. At least we know we won't go out and get killed. Or we go to our Imam Barga and there will be a suicide bomber coming to attack our Imam Barga here. We are safe. I'm not doing this being stubborn. For me, I've said, whatever the truth is, if Imam is coming, just when I feel that no, this is not the true religion, then I say the voices, I try to restrain that you are not the last Imam. You are not my Akhri Imam. These are delusions. This is not a true voice coming to me. Schizophrenia, telepathy, or delusional hallucinations. These are just hallucinations coming to me, or someone is trying to. So, because if there's no will involved and there's no compulsion, it should fall into marriage, but it doesn't here. It still falls into prostitution. You see? It doesn't change this. Prostitution. See, if you put rape here, and do not compel your handmaids to rape. Or, yeah, just for the sake of it, just like, do not, like Surah Nisa, let's take that one. So there's no compulsion. Take away the compulsion and take away the willingness to remain chaste of these handmaids. You would still get prostitution, wouldn't you? That's why I feel, in my opinion, for my peace of mind, for my surety, like Hazrat Ibrahim told Allah, and that's in the verse, Quran. That's the Quran verse. For my surety, show me how you give life and then, how they come back to you. Like, how do these... So he said, take the birds and cut them into various pieces and different hills, scatter them and call them. So for complete assurity, it would have been better. God would have not mentioned this. But he had to mention it. See, why did he? We have to consider now here. All of a sudden prostitution has come. Compulsion, forcing. So why didn't he put here that prostitution is illegal, haram? Do not prostitute your maids for worldly life's gain. Finish. See, in the rape case, you have to say their will was not involved. Here you could have just, because then if their will is involved, then you can tell me, Zara, that's not rape. Right? Then I will say, yes, that's not rape. That's two people willingly wanting to have sex, sexual intercourse. There's no force involved. No harm. Not even in between, like if the wife, or if a girl, in between doesn't want to and you force yourself on her, that no, you cannot, now you better complete this with me. That's rape too, because at that time her will was not involved and you forced her. That would be rape. But let's, for the sake of just being simple and clear, let's, you see here, you cannot put it like this, because it falls into prostitution without force and consent of these handmaids. So you have to find a better way. I'm right. You have to find a better way to put it here. Because prostitution still stands. If we take away compulsion, if we take away the will to be chaste of these handmaids, prostitution still stands. And another thing, I haven't even gone, like in my last video, and whoever compels them, then surely Allah, even after they're being compelled, is ever forgiving, ever merciful. What do they need the ever forgiving for? Allah is showing how good He is, that He's always ever forgiving, and then please get the punishment. Okay, maybe I did say, so I may be wrong, You have to see the punishment for zina different for women and different for male. Like God has mentioned about these slave girls or maids or believing maids or in Surah Nisa, half punishment. Surah Nisa verse 25. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Why it should not be put like this? You can say I'm stubborn, but after the truth I am. After the truth I am. You can say Hazrat Musa was after the truth, but I am also after the truth. And when I see something wrong, and there are chances because it still falls into whatever you say. In plain English, I've made it very clear my case. Any Englishman, his mother tongue English, can see that for rape we can say, but when you take away the compulsion, the force, and you take away the willingness to be chaste, what should it, the willingness. If you take away the willingness, if you take away the compulsion, prostitution still stands. And here, like if you take away the willingness to be chaste, prostitution still stands. Willingness to be chaste. But now this prostitution will not be forced prostitution by anyone who compels them. There will be no compulsion, and the willingness is there, so prostitution stands, but forced prostitution does not stand. And they will no longer have their chastity intact, preserved. Prostitution still stands. So this is why God should not have put it in this way here. So that's why Surah Araf Ayat 33 doesn't apply here. Because prostitution still stands. No matter how much you tell me that indecency is apparent, this and that, forced inheritance of women, in Surah Nisa verse 19, you can show me that. You can show me who wants to be modest, who should be all or what. Modesty verse you can show me. But God should have not put it like this in this part of the verse about prostitution, forced prostitution, because prostitution still stands. If you take away, what if there is no compulsion? What if there is no willingness to remain chaste? Prostitution will stand. Then you can prostitute these handmaids to seek the advantages of the present life. But in rape, as they define rape, when you take away compulsion, force, and their willingness or being forced willing, their willingness is not there, right? What does rape still stand? It doesn't stand, it changes. Do you get my point here? If now you want to, I can say that I've explained to you in simple language, trying to explain to you, I've done it, I've done my work. Because prostitution. So you don't call me stubborn. Any Britisher, Englishman, English language speaking will say yes. If we take away, this is about forced prostitution. If he had said, so, if you take away force, compulsion, or whatever word you put there for force, like they've put compel your handmaids, then if you take away, in case they are willing to be chaste, you see, then prostitution still stands for gaining the world's life, advantages of the present life. Prostitution still stands. It doesn't go into marriage or willing togetherness to sleep. So that's why this way of writing, someone has trapped themselves. Don't you see it? I'm showing you in plain language. If you think I'm being stubborn और अपनी मनमानी मैं करवा रही हूँ, it's your problem, not my problem. The only way I can explain it to you now. And then if you tell me that's another rarest cases where, then why doesn't God, you know what this is? Despicable, unimaginable, what are multilingual, what the commentators have said. No. Prostitution. This is about forced prostitution. And the willingness of these, of course, to remain chaste. This is not about prostitution, ordinary, someone's will involved and they are not forced into it. So God should have come with a better way to put it here. Why didn't He? Because then you're going to say, which is of course the reason could be that these pagan Arabs, despicable again, were forcing, and Abdullah ibn, okay, they were forcing, they were hiring women for prostitution. And this is what you wanted to expose about these despicable, wicked, extremely wicked, unimaginable pagan Arabs, like one of them named Abdullah ibn Ubay in the commentary in multilingual Quran under this ayat. You want to expose, and you got yourself trapped here. You got yourself trapped here. Because some women, believe it or not, I'm sorry, but I have to say this, they sometimes they willingly want to go into prostitution. They say, we have no other way. We are compelled. We have no other way. We couldn't find a way. That's a little, someone has cornered them. Or maybe life has, they have no other talent. They want to go into prostitution. Let's say, if that is also not the case, and some women want to sell, they are doing prostitution. Let's say no one has compelled them. Let's say there's no kind of compulsion, like there was no other way. There were ways. They could have sold something else, but they chose themselves. Their will was involved. They happily went into this, willingly. They were not This is not the way to put it. You see here the way they've put it. Because what if a prostitute, like you see in Surah Nisa, we find out that there were some believing women who could have been not chaste. So God told these men to check that they are chaste, that they are not into any immorality. Now you'll say, oh Zahra, who wants to be a prostitute? Then what? Go to Surah Nisa, because I know your minds. Go to Surah Nisa and ask God. In Surah Nisa, verse 25, why are you telling these believing men who can't afford the free believing chaste women to marry these women who are what are they called there, under guardianship? Ask their families to marry them because they can't afford these believing free women, and then also to make sure that these believing women whom they can afford to marry are chaste. Don't put it on me. Are chaste, okay, and don't have secret lovers. Then ask yourselves, again I'm repeating myself, do not compel your handmaids to prostitution. In case, oh my goodness, in case they are willing to be chaste. What if in case they are willing to be prostitutes? What if there's no compulsion? It's still prostitution, but now they're willing for prostitution. They're willing to be prostitutes. So this slight thing, this slight allowance for this prostitution, not forced prostitution, I'm saying ordinary prostitution where the handmaids are willing. You see, it should not be open for all this. At least not for prostitution. So God should have put here and been careful. Been very, very careful to put it the proper way. Like prostitution is bad. Prostitution is forbidden, haram. Forced or not. Hope I'm not forgetting anything. Prostitution, since he mentions prostitution here, that's why I'm saying, otherwise I wouldn't have said it. He's mentioning forced prostitution against these handmaids who are not willing for it, but are willing to remain chaste. Do you get it? This is about forced prostitution, not ordinary prostitution, where the handmaid or the slave girl is willing, or what your right hands possess is willing. So he should have, since he's mentioning about forced prostitution, if only he had said here, what? So this is like some pagan Arabs who practiced forced prostitution And these were not willing for it, to seek their own, present advantages, money, present life's advantages, gains, pleasures. And whoever compels them, then surely Allah, even after they're being compelled, He could have said, stop it. This is forbidden. Prostitution is forbidden. Finished. But He's reminding us again and again, no matter how many times we read the Quran, what generations come after us, before us have read the Quran, that there was this forced prostitution. That these handmaids, these slave girls were not willing. They were willing to remain chaste. And so on and so forth, to seek the advantages of the present life, inequitably. So, but in order to do this, He made me get confused. And I started to think, well, what if there's no compulsion in prostitution? What if there is, that these women or girls willingly want to go into prostitution? So this is wrong here. And I'm not going to mesh my brain. If you can't see this, and you are bent upon calling me stubborn and wrong, और मैं अपनी मनमानी करके इस्लाम को ख़राब कर रही हूँ और फॉल्सली एक्यूज कर रही हूँ प्रॉफिट मोहम्मद को और उसके कुरान आयतों को, I'm falsely accusing, showing you a false picture, and I can't get it because I'm schizophrenic. You can use my mental illness. You can use my, she's arrogant, stubborn. She thinks too much of herself. Who do you think you are? You are not bending. Tell me, how can I understand this ayat? I've explained it, why I don't understand it, and why it's wrong. And then I will explain the later ones, why the punishment hasn't come. Why hasn't He mentioned here? Since He mentioned prostitution, forced prostitution, He can't, now they will say, maybe the pagan Arabs got it done, so they were compelled. Now after their compulsion, God is consoling them. Because it's no longer allowed. You are forgiven. Because Jesus Christ also said, he who has not sinned shall cast the first stone. But in doing so, God here has made a mistake. Literally to be in wedlock, in case they are willing to be chaste. Dr. Ghali has put it like this. So you can say, oh yes, another point you Shias and Muslims can put, that this was practiced in the pagan Arab times. Now no Muslim, no Mormon can practice this, compelling women to prostitution. So that's why God never thought that us Mormons, He has told us to keep chaste here. No Mormon can now ever be unchaste. No. For Mormons, there is a punishment for fornication, there's a punishment for adultery, there's half punishment for those in Surah, whoever they are, you say they are Baba. I'm very scared to give words like, who are they? Half punishment for those women who are less than free women, chaste, who your believers cannot afford. And they are told to make sure by Allah that they are given fair dowry, and be chaste, and what else is there? Not have secret lovers. And their punishment is half if after marriage these believing less than free believing women commit adultery. Their punishment is half of those free women whom you can't afford, but whom you have taken into wedlock because you feared that you would fall into fornication. I'm not the one. So I didn't say that. So there is a chance. Then why didn't God put here a punishment for those who compel these handmaids to prostitution in case they are willing to be chaste, that you may inequitably seek the advantages of the present life? And whoever compels them, not whoever has compelled them, and whoever compels them in present or even future, then surely Allah, even after their being compelled, is ever forgiving, ever merciful. I thought this was such a shuddering, it didn't console me at all, for these prostitutes who are compelled into prostitution against their will. They want to remain chaste, izzatdar, honorable, that God would not put a punishment against them. And I read the coming verse. It wasn't there. I read the whole chapter, Surah, at that time. This was like many, many years ago. Maybe I was I had come into the new house. I was before joining St. Joseph's College. I think before joining St. Joseph's College. So this was maybe I was 19, 20 years old, or just a break in between leaving St. Michael's School and joining St. Joseph's College. Something, or maybe afterwards, a little, in first year, I don't know. But I read the whole verse. This was long, long time ago. I can't remember exactly, but this was long, long time ago. Okay? So I was 19 to 22, somewhere in between there. So I read the whole verse. There was no punishment. And it really got to me. I thought for there should be such a great punishment mentioned by Allah there and then. Like he mentions, he has the time to mention a punishment which is half for the believing women in Surah Nisa verse 19. Okay, I think I've done my work. Oh God, another hour gone. So 2 hours before on some, and sorry if I know I'm right in this. I don't want to say that I know why I got confused, and you hope you understand why I got confused. But if you don't, it's okay. For truth, you can execute me.